You used to be sharper than this. You walk into a room and forget why you went. You read the same paragraph 3 times and retain nothing. You sit down to work and your brain feels like it is operating through wet concrete. And the worst part is you cannot pinpoint when it started. It just crept in, season by season, until slow became your normal. This is not stress. This is not age. This is not who you are now. This is a system that has been accumulating damage without intervention, and the longer it continues without one, the harder the recovery becomes. Here is what is actually driving your brain fog, and the specific mechanisms you can reverse starting today. Chapter 1. The 5 drivers of worsening brain fog. The first driver, chronic sleep fragmentation. You are probably getting enough hours. You are not getting enough depth. Sleep architecture matters more than sleep duration. Slow-wave sleep, concentrated in the first half of the night, is when your brain activates the glymphatic system, a waste clearance network that flushes metabolic byproducts, including amyloid beta, the protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. Without sufficient slow-wave sleep, that waste accumulates, not over decades, over days. Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley has documented how even moderate sleep disruption, waking twice per night, alcohol before bed, inconsistent sleep timing, measurably reduces glymphatic clearance. The cognitive consequence is what you already recognize: sluggish processing, poor working memory, difficulty retrieving words and ideas that used to come easily. Brain fog is often not a brain problem. It is a sleep debt problem wearing a brain problem's clothes. The second driver, chronic low-grade inflammation. Inflammation is not just a body problem. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. Neuroinflammation, which is the inflammation within the brain itself, disrupts the function of microglia, the brain's immune cells. When microglia are chronically activated, they begin degrading synaptic connections rather than protecting them. The result is slowed neural transmission, reduced cognitive flexibility, and a pervasive mental heaviness that no amount of caffeine resolves. The triggers are everywhere in modern life: ultra-processed food, sedentary behavior, chronic stress, gut microbiome disruption, and poor sleep all elevate inflammatory markers. They compound each other. A diet high in refined carbohydrates does not just affect your body, it elevates interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, pro-inflammatory cytokines that directly impair hippocampal function. You are not thinking slowly because you're lazy. You may be thinking slowly because your brain is inflamed. The third on the list, cortisol dysregulation. Sustained psychological stress does not just feel exhausting, it structurally damages the brain over time. Robert Sapolsky at Stanford has documented extensively how chronic cortisol elevation inhibits neurogenesis in the hippocampus, degrades dendritic branching, and impairs the prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotional and cognitive function. The hippocampus is particularly vulnerable because it has a high density of cortisol receptors, which makes it highly responsive to stress signals, for better and worse. Here's the part that makes this a trap. Cortisol dysregulation impairs the very cognitive functions you need to manage stress effectively. Attention narrows, working memory shrinks, decision fatigue sets in faster. You become less capable of addressing the source of the problem precisely because the problem is already degrading your capability. The fourth, sedentary behavior. Movement is not optional maintenance for the brain, it is a primary input. BDNF, which is short for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is one of the most important proteins for cognitive function. It supports neuron survival, promotes synaptic plasticity, and drives neurogenesis in the hippocampus. Physical exercise is the most potent known stimulus for BDNF production. Sedentary behavior suppresses it. John Rady at Harvard Medical School has described BDNF as miracle grow for the brain. When you stop moving, you stop producing it at the levels your brain requires. The cognitive consequence is not immediate, it's cumulative. A year of low physical activity does not feel like a year of cognitive decline. It feels like brain fog that gradually refuses to lift.
The fifth driver, chronic digital overstimulation. Your brain was not built for the information density of modern life. Constant task switching, notification interruption, and passive content consumption place a sustained load on the prefrontal cortex without ever giving it the recovery window it requires. Gloria Mark at the University of California, Irvine found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain deep focus after an interruption. Most people are interrupted every few minutes, which means most people never return to deep focus at all. The result is a prefrontal cortex that is perpetually fatigued and depleted of the glucose and neurotransmitter resources it needs to operate at full capacity. What you experience as brain fog is often prefrontal exhaustion, and the cure is not more stimulation. It is structured cognitive rest. Chapter 2. Why it keeps getting worse. Each of these 5 drivers compounds the others. Poor sleep elevates cortisol. Elevated cortisol worsens sleep. Neuroinflammation suppresses BDNF production. Low BDNF reduces the brain's capacity to repair inflammation-related damage. Sedentary behavior worsens insulin sensitivity, which worsens neuroinflammation. Digital overstimulation disrupts sleep onset, which fragments slow-wave sleep, which impairs glymphatic clearance. This is not 5 separate problems. It is one interconnected system moving in the wrong direction. And every year you do not address it, the baseline shifts. What was an occasional bad day becomes a persistent state. The brain adapts to dysfunction the same way it adapts to anything else, by treating it as the new normal. That adaptation is what makes brain fog feel permanent. It is not permanent, but it requires more than one intervention to reverse. Chapter 3. Where to start. You cannot fix all 5 drivers simultaneously. Do not try. Start with sleep. It sits upstream of almost everything else. Consistent sleep timing, a cool, dark room, no alcohol within 3 hours of bed, and no screens in the final hour before sleep. These 4 changes alone will improve glymphatic clearance, reduce next-day cortisol, and restore a degree of prefrontal function within 2 weeks. Add Zone 2 aerobic exercise 3 times per week, 30 to 40 minutes at a conversational pace. This single behavior elevates BDNF, reduces neuroinflammation, and improves cortisol regulation simultaneously. Then, address your information environment. One 90-minute block of uninterrupted focused work per day. Phone in another room, notifications off, a single task. That block will feel harder than it should at first. That difficulty is evidence of how depleted your prefrontal cortex already is. It will recover, but only if you give it the conditions to do so. Your 24-hour challenge. Tonight, set a consistent sleep time and stick to it. No screens 1 hour before that time, no alcohol, cool and dark room. Tomorrow morning, before you open your phone, write down the single most important cognitive task you need to complete that day. Block 90 minutes for it. Do nothing else in that block. 2 changes, 1 night. That is your entry point back to a brain that works the way it used to. Brain fog does not mean your brain is broken. It means your brain has been running on insufficient inputs for long enough that decline became your baseline. The system that got you here is reversible, not instantly, not passively, but with the right inputs applied consistently, the brain recalibrates. That is not a promise, that is neuroplasticity. If this is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe. Every video on this channel is built the same way, the actual science and exactly what to do with it.